Welcome everybody to the new school. We have some repairs going on in this room, but I would also like to say that there is like an extraordinary feeling to be in a room that looks essentially as it did in 1932, and we will be undergoing some additional renovations in the coming year. So, welcome to the new school, and I apologize for the chairs. I'm to cue the videographer. I'm John Reed, faculty here at the Creative Writing Program and the director of the Creative Writing Program at the New School, which is home to the BA in Creative Writing, a Writing in Democracy undergraduate honors program, and an MFA in Creative Writing. Years ago, I was on the stage as a board member of the NBCC. It's my privilege tonight to take a moment to thank the NBCC and to thank our authors and to thank you for joining us at this year's National Book Critics Circles Award. The New School and the NBCC have a long-standing relationship going back to the very earliest years of the NBCC. Our faculty and alumnus have been board members and awards recipients, and our communities have worked together in classrooms and on publications and events since before the memory of anyone present this evening. The annual award ceremonies have been hosted at the New School for over 20 years. The cultural lore of creative writing cites the New School as having offered the first academic creative writing workshop in 1931. A few years ago, I worked on a book about the New School and discovered that the course was to become the first workshop was originally offered in 1927. It was a 4-year evolution before the class became what we would recognize today as a creative writing workshop. The first creative writing workshop is often attributed incorrectly to another university as if it arrived fully formed in the late 1930s. In fact, it took 10 semesters to transform a course based on the editorial board of a newspaper or magazine into the form that would serve as a model for creative writing workshops for the century to come. The process of an editorial and news cycle informing a critical model is familiar to the history of the NBCC, which has a strikingly reverberant origin story. The relationship of creativity to criticism and our daily resistances is often juxtapositional, but that relationship is at the core of creativity. Yadan Israel, another alumnus of this program and the NBCC, once told a group of students here, and I paraphrase roughly, "One cannot expect that which one does not give." There are few exemplars of the creative spirit, people who elevate our ability to support one another, to read one another, to be grateful for one another. We're coming up on 100 years of creative writing at the New School and 30 years of the MFA. For many of those 30 years, we have had at the New School an extraordinary exemplar of the creative spirit, who you will hear more about tonight. The first person on my list of people to thank and to celebrate is Lori Lynn Turner, yet another alumnus of our MFA and our associate director. Thank you as well to our team at TNS for bringing us this evening. Kate Tooley, Bianca Lamini, Timmy Lewis, Don Shakai, Dean Lisa Rubin. And thank you to the NBCC. Having been a board member, I understand that the task taken on by the NBCC is, of course, impossible, which is why we should be so thankful for the lavish labor, the grand heart, and the even grander dedication of the NBCC, its board, and its members. In addition to the NBCC board, thank you especially to Heather Scott Parkington, NBCC president, Irish Jamal Dunkel and Christoph Ermscher, VPs of awards, and Jane Shibatari, VP of events. Also, thank you to Jared Drake of Willbound and Joseph Deems of PT Knitwear Books. And thank you as well to everyone here. With that, I turn the mic over to President Heather Scott Partington. Sorry.
evening. I'm Heather Scott Partington, president of the National Book Critics Circle. Thank you to John Reed for the introduction. Thank you also to Lori Lynn Turner, Kate Tooley, and all of our hosts here at the new school. Welcome to all who join us in this space, and to all who join us virtually via our live stream presented by Wildbound. It's my absolute honor to welcome you to the NBCC Awards for Publishing Year 2024. Tonight, in addition to celebrating the best books of 2024, we gather to commemorate 50 years of the National Book Critics Circle. This proudly democratic organization, founded in 1974 by Ivan Sandrof, Nona Balakian, and John Leonard. As Sandrof, our first president, wrote in our early years, the NBCC grows and will continue. The reason can only be because of recognition by those who care about the need to maintain the function of criticism. We are watchmen and women. 5 decades later, we stand at the watch. Newspapers shutter their book sections, budgets dry up, and charlatans undermine the tradition of a free press. Yet the NBCC endures. We are a community of dedicated readers, embracing our rights to read and interpret freely, embracing the radical act of independent thought. Never has there been a more urgent need for criticism, for free speech, for writing that questions, talks back to, and interprets other writing. We honor the way that literature has always spoken to other literature, the way that Langston Hughes wrote I Too after Walt Whitman. Stuart Gilbert translated Albert Camus' loud, fateful rap on the door of Meursault's undoing. And Mark Twain got cranky listing James Fenimore Cooper's offenses. The National Book Critics Circle carries on, honoring, writing, and fostering a national conversation about literature. We are joined tonight by multiple NBCC award winners and literary luminaries. Lauren Michelle Jackson, winner of this year's Nona Balakian Citation for Excellence in Reviewing. NBCC Service Award winner and longtime NBCC hero, Lori Lynn Turner. We welcome Professor Haki Madhubuti, founder and publisher of the Third World Press, winner of the Toni Morrison Award for Achievement. We welcome Sandra Cisneros, winner of the Ivan Sandrof Award for Lifetime Achievement, who joins us virtually. Distinguished NBCC Award winner Maxine Hong Kingston is also with us tonight to mark our 50th anniversary. Please join me in a round of applause in celebration of each of these guests' contributions to literature. Tonight, we also recognize the beautiful, defiant, gentle, angry, clever, wry, illuminating, and irreverent books from 42 finalists in 8 genre categories: autobiography, biography, criticism, fiction, nonfiction, poetry, the Gregg Barrios Book in Translation Prize, and the John Leonard Prize for Best First Book. Honored finalists and guests, please stand as you are able so we may applaud your achievements. Thank you. As Margaret Atwood said when she accepted the Ivan Sandrof Award in 2017, critics are a part of the barrier standing between authoritarian control and a pluralistic, open democracy. That barrier is always fragile, but at some times more than at others. The National Book Critics Circle remains committed to mutual support among literary critics, and we are proudly a member-driven, member-run organization. Our number has blossomed from the original 140 to over 800. Our members whose reviews are collected weekly in our Critical Notes newsletter by our dear VP of Online, Michael Schaub, ennoble the profession. As I'm fond of saying to everyone on the board, everyone here is a volunteer. Every job at the MBCC is done for free, and usually in the tiny pockets of time between other obligations. This board governs the organization, judges prize committees year-round, reads hundreds of books, and plans and runs all MBCC events, including these awards. Thank you, board members, for your sacrifice and your dedication. I'd especially like to recognize the work of our co-VPs of awards, Christoph Ermscher and Iris Jamal Dunkel, who have made every minute of this ceremony and our reading special. Thank you both, and thank you to David Wu, our MC, for a memorable reading last night. Thank you to our financial advisor, Marion Winnick, our accountant, Nancy Seebeck, and our priceless tech support, Vita Khan. Please join me in also honoring the work of two board members who will cycle off the board tonight, for they are brilliant critics and contributors to the work of the MBCC. Joe Livingstone, past Balakian Citation winner, current VP of DEI and chair of the Nonfiction Committee, and David Varno, past MBCC president, current VP of Grants and Fundraising and Fiction Committee chair. We'll miss you both, and the board will not be the same without you. Oh, yeah, we can applaud for that. Almost since its inception, the MBCC has been run on a shoestring. Vice President Digby Deal spoke of this particular challenge in one of the early newsletters. It's tough to remain independent, yet financially flush. We rely on your donations to fund speaker payments for events, disability access costs, and our monetary prizes. This year, our 50 for 50 campaign asked donors to give $50 in honor of our 50th anniversary. If you're not able to give 50, you can give any multiple of 5. We're grateful for anything you can donate to the MBCC using the QR code that's on your program or on your screen if you're watching the live stream, or by going to bookcritics.org/give. In addition to serving as MBCC president, I'm a public high school teacher. I teach 9th grade English and Avid at Elk Grove High in Elk Grove, California. As a critic, as a board member, and as an educator, I'm awed by this gathering to celebrate the written word. As we all know, right now, some seek to limit the books that are published, the books that can be checked out of libraries, and the books that can be purchased, taught, and even read. I stand with you tonight in defiance of censorship and in celebration of all the unique perspectives offered by each writer in this room. The National Book Critics Circle affirms the right of every person to see themselves reflected in books. As the MBCC moves into our next chapter, we stand with organizations fighting to protect our rights to write and read. In the introduction to MBCC founder John Leonard's posthumously collected work, Reading for My Life, the book that made me a critic, Dr. O writes, "The great English critic Frank Kermode has said that every piece of literary criticism rewrites the text it examines. Less dogmatically expressed, this is the idea that a work is not complete until the reader animates the text, as if the lines of a novel are printed circuit through which the force of the reader's own life will flow." I'm a critic because of those words, and because I read Leonard's collected reviews. I realized that I wanted, like Leonard, to tell my own life through the books that I had read, through the books that I had read. I'm a critic because of people like past board member David Hewlin, who put that book in my hands, and because of current board member and founder of the National Book Critics Circle Emerging Critics Fellowship, Elizabeth Taylor, who imagined that the MBCC could better fulfill its mission by supporting new critics and offering a path to publication for those who do not have one. Liz mentored me as one of the first Emerging Critics Fellows, and I'm forever grateful. It's our job to pay it forward. We encourage you out there or in the room to apply for our Emerging Critics program. Details are available on our website, bookcritics.org. So Liz Taylor, who I was just speaking about, has a sign-off that the board has embraced, for it signifies the necessary resolve to carry us forward into the next 50 years. Onward. Our responsibility is to search far and wide for literary excellence, to champion the rare and the innovative, to read and write tirelessly, and to bring more people into the literary conversation each year. I'm thankful for all of you as we move forward together, our role models, the writers, the critics in this room, the critics who are watching at home, and the critics who are just beginning to claim their authority on the page. Onward. And now it's my pleasure to introduce one of our VPs of events and our co-chair of the 50th Anniversary Committee, Jane Chabatari.
Can you hear me? I can't tell you what a joy it is to be in this room tonight, in this circle of people who love books and who write books and review books and are involved in the world of putting books together. It's a true pleasure for me to introduce our distinguished special guest and to talk about our 50th anniversary celebration. It's been going on for a few years, and I have to thank my co-chair, Jacob Appel. The two of us have had wonderful times together discussing possibilities and doing collaborative work along with our committee. We've partnered with book fairs and conferences throughout the country, from Boston to Brooklyn to Berkeley to Kansas City to Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, and so forth, presenting all-star panels of our award winners and finalists and explorations of book criticism today. We released our long list for the first time ever this year, which was a milestone. We've gathered archival materials and gathered memories from past board members and past finalists and winners of our awards. The NBCCC board is a remarkable, hardworking group of volunteers, as Heather has made clear. There's something about this organization that I can't put my finger on, other than that there are people who want to read books all year long, read the new books that are coming out, elaborate and deliberate and discuss them for hours and hours at a time. It's a special group, and I'm grateful to have been part of that group for over the years. It really, we sat from 9 o'clock this morning until 2, discussing the books that we've been reading all year long, and voting on the books that would end up being called the winners, although our finalists and long listers were also honored by the NBCC because we've put so much energy and time into it. We really care about your work and feel it's appropriate to honor it. So anyway, this is the capstone tonight of 50 years since the NBCC awards begin. I'm going to quote Ivan Sandrof, as Heather did, the first president of the NBCC, at the initial awards ceremony. He said, "In being here tonight, you honor not only our awards, but the book critics of the nation. For them and of them, I thank you." I must say, it's been a joy to celebrate the best writers and book critics of our time. It's kind of more complicated to think about 50 years of the organization, all those literary conversations, the awards, the events. It's hard to capture in a few moments, but I will try. And my first suggestion is imagine, if you will, the founding weeks of the National Book Critics Circle. It's 1974. It's a time of economic uncertainty. Watergate has left the country shaken. The National Book Awards funding has been slashed, and its literary words are under threat. Dismayed that there might not be prizes for outstanding books, Ivan Sandrof, who at that point was book editor of the Worcester Telegram Gazette, and John Barkham, a syndicated book columnist. Imagine a syndicated book columnist. There used to be a lot of them. They dream up the idea of having a group of book critics commend literary excellence by offering a critics' prize. Soon, what Digby Deal of the LA Times called a squabbling, opinionated gang of individualists began to plan the NBCC. The fledgling organization's board gathers regularly at the Algonquin Hotel. Founding members included Nona Balakian of the New York Times Book Review, John Leonard of the New York Times, Barbara Bannon from Publishers Weekly, Elizabeth Hardwick, New York Review of Books, and book editors and critics from newspapers in Boston, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., and many other cities, plus the book critics and book editors of magazines throughout the country and in New York. The founders of the National Book Critics Circle are driven to the vision by the vision of an organization that would reward literary excellence with awards chosen by the critics themselves and extend the literary conversation to a national level. They always thought that the NBCC should be nonprofit. The financing would be through minimal membership dues, and they believed in the idea of nurturing future critics. And I have to say, I want to give a shout out to Elizabeth Taylor, a former president and current board member who's in the audience tonight, because in the 21st century, many decades after they founded the group, she was the one who put us through to the nonprofit status and also created the emerging critics that Heather referenced earlier. So we have both of those programs that were part of the founding vision. The first awards set a pattern of honoring originality and powerful voices. The Fiction Award went to E.L. Doctorow for Ragtime, a novel that broke rules for using real people as characters. The Poetry Award went to John Ashbery for Self-Portrait in a Convex Mirror. When we celebrated the 35th anniversary of the NBCC a few years back, I was president and we co-hosted a party and brought Doctorow and Ashbery into the gathering for oral histories. And at that point, Ashbery recalled, coming from a jury of book critics from around the country, these awards inevitably mean more to a writer than one chosen by a mere handful of judges. My NBCC award for my 5th collection of poems happened when I was in my mid-40s and served to jumpstart my somewhat sagging career as a poet. In 1977, the NBCC Fiction Award was the first to publicly recognize the rising star Toni Morrison for her book, Song of Solomon. The finalists that year, by the way, were John Cheever's Falconer, Joan Didion's A Book of Common Prayer, Philip Roth's The Professor of Desire, and John Sales's Union Dues. In 2015, Morrison won the Sandrof Award for Lifetime Achievement, and she came to the stage and called the NBCC a wild faculty of sorts dedicated to books and their scrutiny. I've always loved that, a wild faculty of sorts. She really caught the feeling of this organization. She said that we were passionate about and eager to laud and reward the best, and as the years passed, the organization became more than unique, it became necessary. And then she went on to say it became urgent. Now that was 10 years ago, and I think in a way we're even more urgent now than we were then, given the atmosphere in which we're living as a literary culture. The vision of our founders sustains us to this day. Our membership continues to be the primary source of our income. Our awards are a major center no matter what's going on. We've evolved and adapted over the years. Always advocating for the value of literary criticism in the work of our members, whether it's digital or on social media or in whatever new form comes along. Our awards process is more robust than ever. Actually, tonight, we started with 4 categories. Tonight, we've got 12. Some named for the founders, you'll notice. And you can search all the former winners on our website at bookcritics.org under past winners and finalists. The award ceremony tonight marks a 50th anniversary milestone, and we're honored to have with us an NBCC award winner from 1976. That year, the awards were chaired by Elliot Fremont Smith, who ran the book section of the Village Voice. The fiction award went to John Gardner for October Light. The poetry award went to Elizabeth Bishop's Geography 3. The criticism award went to Bruno Bettelheim for The Uses of Enchantment. The nonfiction finalists included The Damnable Question, a study in Anglo-Irish relations by George Dangerfield, Roots by Alex Haley, World of Our Fathers by Irving Howe, and Simple Justice, The History of Brown versus Board of Education and Black America's Struggle for Equality by Richard Kluger. And the Nonfiction Award went to Maxine Hong Kingston for The Woman Warrior, Memories of a Girlhood Seeing Ghosts, published by Alfred A. Knopf. Tim Foote of Time magazine presented the award. His words ring true to this day. He said, "The citation, which really should be, read this book, buy this book, give it to everyone," that citation reads as follows: "In an age of fat-plodding books, this one is thin, tough, and graceful." The Woman Warrior ranges from village life in pre-Mao China to a portrait of an unforgiving and unforgettable Chinese mother. From foreign devils, ghosts, and legends to the pangs of growing up poor and isolated in America. Maxine Kingston demonstrates again for anyone who'd forgotten that nonfiction can be as full of fire and ice as fiction or poetry, rattling a reader's sensibility with a hard, exact curb of private experience. 10 years ago in San Francisco, since Maxine was being honored at a party Oscar Villalone on the NBCC board and I co-hosted, and she was surrounded kind of spontaneously by 7 Asian American women writers who had come to the party: Frances Huang, Yang Huang, Vanessa Hua, Amy Fan, Beth Gan, Nguyen, Kirsten Chen, and Reese Kwan. They stood in a circle around Maxine and gave her a spontaneous salute. "You changed our lives." It was a beautiful moment, and I have a picture somewhere that I think we'll try to put on the blog or something, or put it on social media. It was a beautiful night. So I'm honored to introduce the woman who has changed so many lives through her genius, her brilliant wordplay, her visionary narratives, her inimitable presence, Maxine Hong Kingston.
Wow, I'm having a flashback. This happened years ago too. Too short for the podium. So they gave me a microphone again. Well, this happened 48 years ago too, you know. I'm going there, and now I'm in front. Well, aloha, National Book Critics, and aloha to all of you who are being criticized. Well, 48 years ago, I got this phone call that I was going to be given a prize in New York. This phone call came to Hawaii, and you know, my publisher, Charles Elliott, you know, he phones with all this good news, and I get I know what he thinks of me. He gives me a call, and he says, you know, your book got the front page of the New York Times book review. That's very important. And so I come here. Oh well, my ohana comes to the airport to see me off, and your ohana is. It's your beautiful community, it's your family, it's your colleagues, everybody that loves you and whom you love, and they all bring leis, and so I am just covered with leis. And so at the awards ceremony, I didn't wear all the leis. I just wore the maili, which is like the laurel in the Greek times, and it drapes all the way down my body. And later on, I read about myself. It said, she came covered with leaves. And I thought, oh gosh, you know, New York people don't understand us. And so, okay, so I wrote this book, which the critics, a lot of you critics didn't understand this, but not American critics. Mostly the British did not understand. They kept saying, is this fiction or is this nonfiction? What is this? Oh, a publisher who had rejected it, I think it was Little Brown, said, we can't publish this. This is a pig in a poke. So that's the first thing I learned about what I was doing. I was making a pig in a poke. But you know, the British critics, I think all of them, they wrote, is this fiction or nonfiction? And there would be whole essays on the difference between fiction and nonfiction, and we can't tell what this is. And actually, the book sank because of all of that, until Sunny Mehta became head of Penguin, and he reissued the whole thing. But I think what I brought to books, and actually bringing traditions from the West, from the far, far West, which becomes the Far East, and a tradition that I especially brought was from Hawaii. And the talk story is a living tradition right now in Hawaii. Everyone does it. And as an example, I was watching the news on TV, and the police had just brought in a bad guy, and the newscaster said, oh, was this an arrest? What's he charged with? And they said, no, we just brought him in to talk story. And so, you know, we talk story from the ancient past, which includes stories on how to build something, how to navigate, also the stories of history, and the stories of what I did at work today. All of it comes in, and this is a direct translation of the Chinese words "gonggu talk story, and I didn't have the translation many of my Chinese words and traditions. But it was going to Hawaii that I got the English translation for Gongwu Jai and to talk story. And so the woman warrior and China men are made up of, well, what I'm doing is trying to put into words, into written words, what has been spoken for thousands of years. And so I think what I brought was the bringing oral tradition into the written word. But what happens with oral tradition is that that time you tell the story, it changes. And every time a different person tells the story, it changes again, because it's from a different voice and a different point of view. Also, the story changes depending on who you're telling it to give encouragement. Okay, so let's say you're telling the story to a bad guy, and you want this bad guy to be good. So you give it a good moral story and give it a teaching story. So every time you tell a story, it changes. That's why in my books, the stories are one way, and then all of a sudden it's a different way. And people who read my books often say, "Oh, did this really happen? Is this true, or did you make it up?" And sometimes they're not true, and I did make it up. But one way I write like that. Okay, here's something that's totally relevant for right now. My parents are illegal aliens, and I'm a what do they call it, native citizenship rights person. And so my all my life, it's like, be careful, don't say anything, because we're going to get deported if you write this, we're going to get deported. Okay, so the reason I write so that you can't tell whether it's fiction or nonfiction is I'm trying to fool ICE, so they won't come deport us. Okay, so. Okay, now I've told everybody, but my parents are dead, so they can't deport them. Another tradition that I'm bringing from the West is that I came here to accept the awards, but we people from Hawaii, and also we people from Asia, we are not individuals. It's not like, oh, I want a big prize. It's we want a big prize. Maybe I can let you know how we feel about the we is, okay, my mother, Brave Orchid, was dying, and I went to the hospital to say goodbye to my mother, and there was a woman, I think she was Muslim, and she had the headdress, and she says to me, "Oh, well, tell her you love her. Give her a hug." I thought, we don't do that. But then that makes me feel guilty. I gotta say I love her. Come on, tell her you love her. But I couldn't do it. But then my sister came in, my little sister, who is 9 years older than I am, and that makes her more American and able to say things. And hey, my granddaughter is making action. What do you want me to say? And there is Malu, my grandson, and they are inheriting all this wonderful book culture. Hannah Mae and all of us this afternoon, we went to the New York Public Library and just saw the majesty and the appreciation of books. And then Hannah Mae says to me, I told them we are going to be among people who write books, who love books. And Hannah Mae says, are we going to meet Anna Wilson? What's Anna Wilson's last name? I forgot. Osborne. It's and also, I wrote it down and I can't read it. Anna Wilson and Mary Hope Osborne. Mary Pope Osborne, and Anna Wilson. Those are great children's book writers. Are you here? So anyway, we are honoring these children's book writers who inspire the young people. And Malu is 5 years old, and he and I are writing a book. We are on page 102, and there are volcanoes in it, and a lot of things that come from Hawaii. Okay, so it is so good to be with all of you, and thank you, National Book Critics, and thank you, New York, for being the center of book publishing. And thank all of you for your support of writers and for storytelling. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Wow, that was amazing. Thank you so much. Another hand of applause. Hello, my name is Iris Jamal Dunkel, and I'm a board member at the NBCC and this year's co-VP of Awards. I'm honored to follow my fellow board members and the esteemed Maxine Hong Kingston to stand here on this stage on this night when we celebrate the extraordinary work of authors, translators, and literary citizens. This is my first year on the board, and therefore my first time getting to participate in reading for the prizes on committees and then have the opportunity to read all of the finalist books that we are celebrating tonight. Reading so widely across so many genres has deepened my understanding of the literature that's being published today, a knowledge that I'll bring to my own writing as a biographer, a poet, and a critic, and that I'll bring to my teaching. Just last year, I was sitting in the audience at the awards ceremony just like you, watching the magic happen on the stage and dreaming of the possibility of someday playing a larger role in the organization. And here I am standing before you today. If you, like me, are sitting there thinking that you too would like to join our community or play a larger role by running for the board, I'm here to tell you that it's possible. Join our organization, run for the board, but maybe don't raise your hand when they ask who wants to plan the awards, unless you like a lot of stress. In all seriousness, planning the awards alongside my co-VP, Christoph Armscher, and our NBC president, Heather Partington, has been an absolute privilege and a labor of love that we have laughed and cried through over the many, many months that we've planned these events. So in addition to all of the folks who Heather already thanked, I'd like to also acknowledge our sponsors, whose generous donations make the celebrations possible. Brooklyn Brewery, Foley Family Wines and Spirits, Curious Elixirs, Good Vodka, Perlane, Morgenstern Books in Bloomington, Indiana, Washington Square Hotel, Orator Galleries, and Quarles, including our attorneys Martin Childs and Jim Kaplan. I also want to thank our bookseller, P&T Knitwear, who will be selling all of the finalist books as soon as the ceremony wraps up, and I encourage you to take the opportunity to buy books to support the authors and translators. And so now, without further ado, please help me welcome Mandana Shafa, our VP of Barrios and VP of Emerging Critics, to announce the Gregg Barrios Book and Translation Prize.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Iris. So, good evening. Nowruz Mubarak, gentle audience members, and may this spring bring renewal and peace to us all. My name is Mandana Shafa, and I'm the Vice President of the Gregg Barrios Book and Translation Prize. And in this third year of the Barrios Prize, we are thrilled to celebrate all the glorious writers and translators with this cross-genre award that is one of two NBCC honors ultimately decided by our beloved member critics, many of whom are in the audience this evening. The finalists in this category are The Children of the Ghetto Star of the Sea by the late Elias Khoury, translated from the Arabic by the late Humphrey Davies and published by Archipelago. This second installment in Elias Khoury's trilogy, lyrically translated by Humphrey Davies, brilliantly depicts the complexity of Palestinian lives through the story of the indomitable Adam Danoon, child of the Nakba, who creates a new life for himself against the backdrop of ongoing conflict, as well as the ghosts of the past. Hersht 07769 by Laszlo Krasznahorkai, translated from the Hungarian by Uttili Mulzet and published by New Directions. This giddy and astonishing tale of one sentence running 400 pages follows Florian Hersht as he attempts to communicate with Angela Merkel to convince her that the end of the world is nigh. Add a neo-Nazi leader, a graffiti artist, Johann Sebastian Bach, and wolves for an unforgettable feat of artistry by Laszlo Krasznahorkai with a virtuosic translation by Uttili Mulzet. A Last Supper of Queer Apostles by Pedro Lemebel, translated from the Spanish by Gwendolyn Harper and published by Penguin Classics. This thrilling collection of essays or crónicas by the late Chilean literary activist and queer icon Pedro Lemebel, documenting the AIDS epidemic and the dismantling of Augustus Pinochet's dictatorship, is beautifully supported by Gwendolyn Harper's supple translation. Lemebel's work is linguistically striking, weaving memoir, journalism, poetry, and history, and defies labeling, much like the writer himself. Melville by Rodrigo Fresán, translated from the Spanish by Will van der Heyden and published by Open Letter. A tour de force of an invented biography, Melville is ostensibly about the author of Moby Dick and his relationship with his father, but quickly kaleidoscopes into something otherworldly, a chiaroscuro of love and loyalty. threaded by the spirits of the past and of the future. Even as Rodrigo Frazan upends traditional canon, Melville is at its core the essence of storytelling, matched by Will Vanderhein's elegant and consummate translation. Oh, by Judith Kiros, translated from the Swedish by Kira Josephson and published by World Poetry. Another transmutation of a canonical text, Judith Kiros' O may spring from Shakespeare's Othello, but quickly soars from that source material into striking poems on gender, race, empire, and identity itself. Kira Josephson's powerful translation of this extraordinary collection is a remarkable example of the magnificent collaborations between writers and their translators. And Traces of Enayat by Iman Mursal, translated from the Arabic by Robin Mosier, published by Transit. Iman Mursal, herself an illustrious poet, is our guide on a deeply personal exploration of the nearly forgotten Egyptian writer Enayat al-Zayat, who took her own life 60 years ago at age 27. This lyrical excavation of al-Zayat's existence and impact is beautifully mirrored in Mursal's own intimate narrative, sensitively rendered by Robin Mosier's translation. And the 2024 Barrios Book and Translation Prize goes to A Last Supper of Queer Apostles by Pedro Limabel, translated from the Spanish by Gwendolyn Harper, published by Penguin Classics.
Thank you. Oh, okay, I'm first, so I don't know how this is supposed to sound, but thank you thank you to the selection committee and to the we that made this book, to Pedro, who has transformed me. And there's nothing more gratifying than when I hear from a reader or a community that he transforms them. The people who made this book happen are, most of all, John Siciliano, Rory Williamson, and Eliana Khan, and a number of people in Chile, Peter Cole and Adina Hoffman, the many we that buoys up a person, a writer, a life, people who don't fit into the acknowledgments of a book, but who are there day after day after day. I have been thinking a lot these last few weeks about what kind of art is needed right now, what might art do right now, what is a way forward, and I think it's really important that there's more than one answer to that question, but I think Pedro does potentially provide us with one model, and there's, in really horrific times, sometimes you have to leap ahead of realism because horror is absurd, but you also need warmth and humor and jokes, and you need to be uncompromising in that as well. And the moral pursuit that is writing is what keeps us on the path. I don't know if I can explain that art is a reprieve, but it is preparation for life. Art is not for art. Art is for life. And thank you.
Good evening. I'm Tom Beer, the editor-in-chief of Kirkus Reviews and former NBCC board president, and I'm delighted to be here this evening to present the NBCC Service Award to Lori Lynn Turner. Lori Lynn is the associate director of the New School Creative Writing Program and since 2006, she's worked with the NBCC to produce this annual awards ceremony. It's safe to say that we would not be here tonight, or any night during the past 20 years, without her hard work and dedication to our mission. Players on the NBCC board will come and go, but Lori Lynn has been our rock, the fixer who knows how the system works and how to get things done. As a former NBCC president myself, who was racked with anxiety about the ceremony during my tenure, I can attest that Lori Lynn was a calm, cheerful presence who quietly made things happen and quieted jitters. Never was her importance more apparent than in March 2020, when the ceremony had to be canceled mere days before it was to take place because of COVID-19. And she was instrumental in helping the NBCC return to a successful live event 2 years later. Lori Lynn's prose and poetry have appeared in Guernica, Brooklyn Rail, Seventh Wave, Tin House, The Inquisitive Eater, New School Food, Killing the Angel, and Cold Front magazine. Her essay, Eating Together, was nominated for a Pushcart Prize. Lori Lynn's most recent project is a novel entitled Serena's Home, which grapples with the individual and collective histories of violence and imagines a revolutionary community with its own publishing company. She is currently working on an interview-style nonfiction book that will explore the question, how did you get here? Please give a warm round of applause to Lori Lynn Turner.
Thank you so much, Tom, and everyone on the board. My first memory of partnering with NBCC was in 2006 or 2007, that year. I delivered a plate of cookies and beverages to the room where the deliberations were taking place. I didn't hear anything. John Freeman was the president. That year or the next year, Robert Polito, thank you, Robert, the then director of the creative writing program, introduced me to Jane Chavatari. I didn't know then how much I appreciate Jane. It's a reunion each March when NBCC board members fly in from all over the country to be here. Lots of hugging last night as I saw people that I've known for some of the 20 years, 19 years, or 20, I don't know. I've been assisting with the readings and award ceremony. I was just thinking a few days ago, wait, what, 19 years? What? How did that happen? Well, it's more to me, how did I get here at this very moment on this stage? I'm sorry, this is going to be a little personal. I was born into a home that valued work above all else. My family moved from Washington State to Alaska when I was 9. Books weren't banned in my home, though it felt like they were. Working hard every day, including weekends up and dressed, was valued over book reading and book learning. It was in a tiny library in Fairbanks, Alaska, that I plotted my escape. One day I would be free of a home that wasn't 100% terrible, but it was terrifying. I lived in that land of disassociation, my brain struggling to retain what I read and to stay in one tense when I wrote. Learning was hard. Before I received my MFA from the New School here, I attended classes, drop-in classes, at Orange Coast Community College, Santa Monica City College, San Diego City College, Cabrillo College, San Jose State. I ultimately earned my undergraduate degree in creative writing from San Francisco State in 1997, and then in 2003, my MFA here. Education was my ticket out and raised my consciousness. And I want this for others. Don't dismantle our schools. As my fictional character Serena would say, right now, we are in a seriously serious situation. We are. Over my years at the New School, I've been a senior office assistant and an executive secretary, associate director of academic affairs, and currently I'm the associate director of student affairs, and I like to add plus, plus, plus. My job is changing again, but I don't know what my title will be or what the extra work will be, because they're always extra work. But I have asked to please not take away the events from me. Putting together nights like last night and tonight can sometimes feel impossible with bureaucratic nonsense. Shout out to NBCC board member Marion Winnick, who we've dealt with much nonsense. And we have a very tiny, tiny staff who gets it all done. But oh, the day after these sparkling nights, my feet hurt, I have a headache, well, everything hurts. I let myself have a small moment of joy. We've honored writers again. I've come to believe that we have small moments of joy even when our hearts are breaking. Years ago, yes, it's true. Years ago, something horrible happened, not to me, but related to me. My brain refused to let me sleep. At night, I pushed my hand over my heart, trying to slow it down, attempting not to separate, to go back to another time. I stopped listening to music, spent time alone, not sure how I could live in the world ever again. But I kept reading the most difficult, wrenching books I ran to, especially poetry. I kept coming to work. Putting on events such as this gave me a purpose. And at some point, I accepted that pain would never leave. I learned to show up for others who've suffered, and so many are in that immediate, and so many have suffered before in this country we call the United States of America. I draw on my own personal experience to listen, to advocate, to be of service, as others have been for me. I'm forever grateful to everyone in the creative writing program here, past and present faculty and students, too many to name. It was here in the creative writing program where I met my writing friends. These are my we people, the L's, Lisa Friedman, Laura Kronk, Leah Iannone, and Luis Jaramillo. And in my first year in the MFA program, I met other lifelong writer friends, Nancy Jean Ross and Alicia Abbott. I love you all. Also, very importantly, I wouldn't be standing here giving this speech if it weren't for Kate Tooley, who gave me this night off. That's true. Over like 25, 26, I don't know how many years ago, I dreamt that I was accepting an award in a fancy dress. I told my roommate Nora at the time about the dream. We both thought the award was for my book, and while I didn't have a book yet, I didn't understand that to have a book, you have to write the book. I talked about the book more than I did writing it. One day, I thought, I thought, and that day is today, and this is the award. This really means a lot to me. It really does. I'm a very lucky person because I have a lot of good people around me, but that's not where I came from, and it's just sometimes I can't believe it. I don't know what I did right or wrong, probably some wrong things. But anyway, the National Book Critics Circle Service Award is that award, and I'm in my fancy dress, just like my dream. So thank you to NBCC for making my dream come true.
Thank you, Laurie Lynn. Hi, I'm Adam Dalva. I'm the chair of the Leonard Prize for the best first book in any genre. This prize is named in honor of NBCC founding member John Leonard, and it seeks to celebrate bold, thrilling debuts. It is voted on by members of the NBCC, not the board. My thanks to the many critics who engaged in a robust, mostly collegial conversation about these wonderful books over the past 2 months. The finalists are By the Fire We Carry, The Generations-Long Fight for Justice on Native Land by Rebecca Nagel, published by Harper, a wonderfully researched examination of the Supreme Court's 2020 ruling to return millions of acres of land to the Muskogee people. Nagel weaves in personal anecdote, journalistic reportage, and legal analysis to compelling effect. Feeding Ghosts, a graphic memoir by Tessa Hulls, published by MCD, Farrar, Straus, and Giroux, a genre-bending work that merges beautiful art and marvelous storytelling to examine 3 generations of women, the author's grandmother, her mother, and Hulls herself. Along the way, it explores mental illness, Chinese history, and inherited trauma. Great Expectations by Vincent Cunningham, published by Hogarth, an incisive, brilliant debut novel that tells the story of David, a young man who volunteers for a campaign for an exciting and familiar politician It's the story of idealism being met by the mundanities and disappointments of reality, while also providing a coming-of-age plot centered on questions of belief. Miss May Does Not Exist, The Life and Work of Elaine May, Hollywood's Hidden Genius, by Carrie Corrigan, published by St. Martin's. What a wonderfully kinetic, addictive biography of a beloved, elusive comic genius. Corrigan's careful research and infectious tone lets us feel that we are sitting at a table with May and the author, having a really good time. Ward Toward by Cindy Ju Young Oak, published by Yale University Press, is a masterful debut poetry collection whose examination of wards of all types provides a capacious setting for the author's clear, searing lines. Oak examines psychiatric institutions, the female Asian American body's role in society, and much more, shifting forms as she goes with compelling results. And finally, When the Clock Broke, Conman, Conspiracists, and How America Cracked Up in the Early 1990s by John Gantz, published by FSG, is an examination of the early 1990s in America and how that strange moment echoes today. Gantz cannily melds history, pop culture, and cultural theory to capture the era. The result is often hilarious, always intellectual, and a complete pleasure to read. And the winner is Feeding Ghosts by Tessa Hulse. Tessa cannot be here tonight, but I am told she is watching on the live stream, so I hope it got loud wherever she is. She has those sent in a video, which we'll queue up now. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I really wish I could be there in person tonight, but I am in Alaska and could not quite bend space and time to pull it off. But it is such an extraordinary honor to receive this award. John Leonard was someone who read, and beyond that, he's someone who used his power to champion voices that other people wouldn't listen to, including Maxine Hong Kingston and Toni Morrison, who are two writers whose words are literally woven into the fabric of Feeding Ghosts. I am not at all religious, but I have been thinking of late about the Gospel of Thomas and two lines in particular. If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. But what that quote doesn't contend with is the political reality that to be able to bring forth what is within you is a privilege. With everything happening in the United States right now, I've been reflecting on the specific period of Chinese history that shattered my grandmother's mind. My grandmother Sun Yee was a journalist, someone who believed in the power of words to hold her country to account. But instead, she watched a small group of men deny science, education, culture, dissent, and reality, until all the stories that contradicted their own were erased into an aggressively enforced silence. Silence is an active process, and it's one that's happening right now. My grandmother understood that shouting her existence was an act of defiance, and I made Feeding Ghosts to carry forward the story my grandmother was not able to complete. In the 9 years I worked on my book, I tried to take that duty very seriously, and so this recognition from the National Book Critics Circle means the world to me. I'm deeply honored to be in the company of so many incredible readers and writers, and I am so thankful to the broader community of people here tonight and who are watching from afar, who understand how deeply important stories are. So thank you for this recognition, and I hope that I will continue to do my job.
Good evening. I'm Colette Bancroft, and I'm chairperson of the committee that selects the winner of the Nona Balakian Citation for Excellence in Reviewing, named for another one of our founders, and I'm also VP Secretary of the NBCC. Tonight, I am delighted to welcome the 2024 winner of the Balakian Citation, presented each year to recognize outstanding work by a member of the NBCC. I'd like to thank all of the 70 NBCC members who submitted their fine work, and to congratulate the finalists, Joanna Biggs, Sarah Chahaya, Rhoda Fang, and Jeremy Liebarger. And I'm this year's Balakian winner. Lauren Michelle Jackson is an American culture critic, an assistant professor at Northwestern University, and author of the book White Negroes. She deeply impressed the judges with her entry, which displayed her insight, depth, and range, with 2 terrific reviews, both published in The New Yorker. One took a fresh and penetrating look at one of the literary heavyweights of the year, Percival Everett's novel James. The other brought both sharp insight and dry humor to Sarah Thornton's nonfiction book, Tits Up, What Sex Workers, Milk Bankers, Plastic Surgeons, Bra Designers, and Witches Tell Us About Breasts. That's range. Please join me in congratulating Lauren Michelle Jackson.
Okay, cool. Hello. Hi. So this is like really cool. Not least of all for being among all of you brilliant authors whom my training has led to believe are dead. And yet here you are. I would like to first thank the National Book Critics Circle and the Balakian Committee for this recognition. And I congratulate my fellow critics and finalists for their brilliance in this field. I also want to thank Percival Everett and Sarah Thornton, whose books enabled my caprices. An expression of gratitude also owed to Rachel Ahrens and Mara Smith, who edited these pieces, and the production staff at The New Yorker, who, besides exercising their expert attentions, also had the very enviable task of managing a writer who is, let's just say, not as amenable to a hard edit as she was in her 20s. Something I learned the longer I do this is that there's a particular insecurity that attaches itself to criticism, which is a job if you're lucky, and I don't think that it diminishes, or maybe only in ways worth diminishing, the accomplishments and labor of critics whom I adore, to admit that it takes no small amount of luck, being in the right place at the right time, in the right job cycle or cultural flare-up, no small amount of luck to do this for a living, even if in supplement to a more dignified line of work such as teaching or writing books. And therein lies the anxiety, the notion that we react rather than make, towards which even the reflexive insistence on criticism as staking an artistic claim smacks of overselling it. I did not anticipate how much of this gig would entail cheerleading its existence, being someone who always felt the vitality and thus viability of criticism, literary criticism specifically, to be self-evident, that is, evinced in execution, at least when done well, which my presence here suggests may at least on some occasion apply to me. A sturdy critic is one who has no idea what they are going to say before cracking the cover, nor even upon reaching the back of the book. Thinking does not meaningfully precede writing, that is, another truth that makes good critics annoying to stable, for their angle or take on anything remains opaque until they've had their say. Such receptivity, however, is not an abdication of thought, of that necessary recognition indicative of ideology or politics, but here another insecurity. How many times over the past year has a friend in the business lamented the seeming uselessness of their craft, in want of a noble rationale that might assuage their daily retreats into cinema or the novel? But I have nothing for them. What we both know is that our meta-scribbling, however trained upon the fate of art forms made detritus by capital, are not themselves tantamount to the sort of utterances and activity that would and ought to make good. By which I mean, since nothing these days may be left for conjecture, freedom for oppressed people, including trans people, including Palestinians, who are deprived of life by the consent manufactured by the very institutions to whom we beg for book coverage. Reviewing, okay. Reviewing can have good politics, but the efficacy of such is more circuitous and even convoluted than giving credence when called to defend its relevance. A sturdy critic, that is to say, will be unsatisfied with a knowing criticism, yet remain absorbed by the knowledge that telling people how to think about art is indivisible from telling them how to think about the world. If this has ever proved unconvincing to the powers that be, we might remind ourselves to be gladdened by that. I know I can say that reading the work and writing my little pieces has brought joy to my life and hopefully only occasional consternation to others, so I thank you.
Don't worry, only 3 more hours. We're getting there. I was told to be short, and fortunately I am. I'm Jacob Emmapel. I'm the NBCC treasurer and the chair of the Life Achievement Awards Committee. And on a personal note, I heard that Salman Rushdie was speaking in the building next door, and you all came out to hear me, and it doesn't mean a lot. So thank you. In my role as treasurer, let me begin by thanking you for my recent visit and vacation in Tahiti. And more importantly, I do wish to urge you to consider supporting the NBC in our mission. We accept cash, credit cards, electronic payments, checks, gemstones, Krugerrand, Fabergé eggs, real eggs for that matter, Vermeer paintings, kidneys, in short, anything of value except for teenagers. On a more serious note, as chair of the Life Achievement Awards Committee, I want to acknowledge the challenge of celebrating awards at a time when writers' voices remain suppressed and silenced by repressive regimes abroad and civil society remains under threat at home. Neither literature nor criticism, as you've heard many people say today, will be possible without freedom of conscience, and the NBC in particular remains committed to the welfare of dissident writers across the globe. On a happier note, which is rare these days, I admit, it is my pleasure to introduce the 35th Annual Sandrof Award for Life Achievement. The award honors an individual who has, over time, made significant contributions to book culture. It is named after the late Ivan Sandrof, the book critic of the Worcester Evening Gazette, a man of great vision and conviction, who, along with John Leonard and Nona Balakian, founded this organization in 1974, 50 years ago, and I will point out this is the only time in history this organization will be twice as old as I am, and that's something worth noting. I now have the enormous pleasure of announcing that the winner, actually you already know this, but I will emphasize, the winner of the 35th Annual Sandrof Award is pioneering author Sandra Cisneros. Cisneros, whose The House on Mango Street is widely regarded as a modern classic, played a transformative role in literary culture when in 1989 she became the first female Mexican-American writer to have her work published by a major American publisher. With her follow-up collection, Woman Hollering Creek and Other Stories, Cisneros cemented her place among the leading figures in Chicano-Chicana American literature and is a beloved champion of marginalized voices crying out to be heard. And I believe we have a video.
Hello. I want to give thanks for granting me the Ivan Sandrof Lifetime Achievement Award, and to do so, for me, the best way is to write poetry. All praise to the word worshipers in these times of word defamers. All gratitude to the word wranglers, the word workers for wordsmanship, the word smithies, the word smitten, the word smiters, the word wrestlers, los lucha libre luchadores de la palabra, los libre lanzadores de la verdad, the art artisans, los adorados trabajadores, the word respectful, the word specialists, the word honorable, the writers of their word, the word wordsome, the worried in a time of woe, the word passionate, the word devout, the citizens of their word, the word savorers, the word saviors, the word faithful. All gratitude for your word blessings, your word brilliance, to you the word invitees, industrious, word glorious, word glamorous, hammerers of words, the word critics, midwifing the word wondrous, the professional word burnishers, word worthy, word lovers, now and always. I give thanks to you for your labor. My word kin, my sisters and brothers, in gratitude for your artistry. Your lives aim to shape and shift, spark and transform and defy in the age of mendacity and unevolved beings. Holy is the word spoken, writ with human imagination. People who believe in words, people who know what words are for, all praise now and always. May your words ever slay untruths, soothe the troubled, save, inspire, raise us from despair, you light lifters, syllable simmerers, say sizzlers, sacred shimmerers, text sparklers, all praise now and always to you whose profession is transformation. Lovers of sound, alleluia, word Houdinis, I bow before you in thanks, in gratitude, in humility, in joy. Effervescent are you, truth tellers. Blessed be thee, the word ancestors who light the way, right the route, route the wrong, say the say. Blessed be thee who pass the baton before and after, you firm line of doers and mountain movers, courage granters. All gratitude to you, all you who grant hope now and forever. Word without end, ojalá.
I don't know exactly how I'm going to follow that, but fortunately I don't have to exactly, because I get the honor of presenting another award to another very distinguished and talented individual who's going to have to follow Mrs. Neris. So now I have the pleasure of announcing the third annual Toni Morrison Achievement Award, achieved to honor an institution and organization that have over time made significant contributions to book culture. I want to thank first the Morrison family for letting us honor Toni Morrison in this way, and longtime NBCC board member Elizabeth Taylor for nominating this year's winner and really championing both this organization and its founder. Although as a New Yorker, it generally pains me to recognize anything that comes out of Chicago. It is nonetheless my distinct pleasure to announce that the winner of this year's Toni Morrison Achievement Award is the groundbreaking independent press, Third World Press. Founded in Press was founded in 1967 by Dr. Haki R. Madhubuti, who is here with us today. Third World Press is the largest independent Black-owned press in the United States. It has played a crucial role ensuring the publication and continued availability of the works of major Black writers for half a century, including Gloria Naylor, Amiri Baraka, Sonia Sanchez, Pearl Clige, and most notably, Gwendolyn Brooks, as well as promoting new voices and creating a broader platform for a range of writers who did not initially receive the attention they merited from major publishing houses. And I will turn it over to Dr. Madhubuti.
Oh, okay. Thank you. All right, Jacob, could you come out here for a minute, please? my $50. It's for the 50 plus 50, you know. This is 50th year, right? It's the 50-year anniversary.
I am grateful. The organization is grateful to that.
Right, that's it for the organization. I mean, thank you. It's not for you. And of course, I want to thank the National Association for this grand honor. I was very surprised to receive a call from Chris Calhoun on behalf of Elizabeth Taylor, stating that Third World Press, which I had founded in 1967, was this year's winner. I grew up around pimps and hoes slamming Cadillac doors on the Lower East Side of Detroit, Michigan. I'm a poet. And Third World Press exists because I'm a poet. My mother forced me to go to the Detroit Public Library at 14 years old to check out a book by Richard Wright titled Black Boy. I refused to go because I hated myself. I hated everything about myself. I'm 83 years old, so I grew up around that period where apartheid was legal in this country. I went to the stacks myself, found a book, took it off the shelf, walked to an unpeopled section of the library and began to read. And for the first time in my life, I was reading literature that was an insult to my own personhood. I read Black Boy in less than 24 hours, went back, checked out everything Richard Wright had published at that time. And of course, I was on my way. By 16, I was on my own and ended up in the military at 18 years old. But literature and art saved my life. If I had not read Richard Wright at 14, I would not be here today. Primarily because for black people in this country, it has never been easy. It had never been easy. And so this award that we receive on behalf of this August very important organization, it is an honor. My wife is here with me, Dr. Carol D. Lee. Over 55 years together. My wife, in her own way, she is the chair of the National Board for Education Science, appointed by Joe Biden. That's my wife. That the Neanderthal, who is now the president of the country, now has basically wiped out. I'm here representing the legacy publishers, the black publishers, Black Classic Press, African World Press, Red Sea Press, and Just Us Books. These black publishers essentially who have, over the years in existence, have tried to do that which is good, just, correct, and right. Third World Press is 58 years old. And as Jacob mentioned, we have published some of the major writers who really didn't have to come to us, but did. We also operate 3 schools in Chicago: the Betty Shabazz Academy, the Barbara Ann Sizemore Academy, and New Concept School. We service over 750 children a day in an African-centered education. When I say African-centered education, what we mean essentially, we teach our babies to love themselves, first and foremost. Artists are the freest people in the world. If you're an artist and you do not speak the truth, you're not an artist. That's simple. And what we try to do in my short life, like I say, 83 years old, that I have tried to do that which is best for this country. I really love America. I really do. It's hard for me to forgive white people for electing this guy again. A criminal in the White House. His whole family, a family of criminals. I'm going to end with my remarks by saying this. And I want to read a poem. Can I read a poem? One poem? Okay. Our latest book that just came out less than 3 weeks ago, For Gaza's Children. Black, brown, and Jewish writers and poets speak out. edited by Mark Lamont Hill, myself, Matabuti, and Dr. Keith Gilliard. And what's in the opening of the book is a quote by the great Toni Morrison on art. I'll just read the first one. This is precisely the time when artists go to work. It's a little bit more, all right? The poem I'm going to read and leave you with, and to really thank you, this is highly unexpected for me to receive and for our Third World Press to receive this award. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask you to help me out with this poem as we read it, and the title of the poem is Art. Okay. Art is a prodigious and primary energy force. Children, active participation in music, dance, painting, poetry, film, photography, and the indigenous crafts of their people is what make them whole, significantly human, secure in their own skin, culture, and abilities, thus generating in them unlimited possibilities. Art is fundamental instruction and food for a people's soul as they translate the many languages and acts of becoming, often tell them in no uncertain terms that all humans are not pure or perfect. However, the children of all cultures inherit their creative capacity to originate from the bones of their imaginations, the closest and the clearest manifestations of purity, perfection, and beauty, art. Art at its best encourages us to walk on water, dance on top of trees, and skip from star to star without being able to swim, keep a beat, or fly. A child's on-fire imagination is the one universal prerequisite for becoming an artist. So help me out on this one here. So magnify your children's minds with art. Come on now. Jumpstart their questions with what? Art. Introduce your children to the culture of art. Energize their young feet, spirits, and souls with art. Infuse the values important to civic culture via art. Keep them curious, political, and creative with art. I can't hear you. Come on, speak and define the universal language of beauty with art. Come on, that's it. Learn to appreciate peace with art. Appreciate the cultures of other people through their art. Introduce the spiritual path of other people through their art. Keep young people in school off drugs and out of prison with art. Keep their young minds running, jumping, and excited with art. Examine the nurturing moments of love, peace, and connective differences with art. Art allows and encourages this love of self and others. The best artists are not mass murderers, criminals, or child molesters. They're in the beauty and creation business. Art is elemental to intelligent intelligence, working democracy, freedom, and equality, and justice. Art, if used wisely and widely, early and often, is an answer and a question. It is the cultural lake that the indigenous rivers of dance, music, local images, and voices flow. Art is the waterfall of life, reflecting the untimely and unique soul of a people. Art is the drumbeat of good and great souls and hearts forever seeking peace and a grand future for all enlightened peoples. For these are the people the world over who lovingly proclaim, give the artist some. Kind words, yeses from the heart, knowing intuitively that there will be creative reciprocity in all that they give us. Why? Because fundamentally, art inspires, informs, directs, generates hope, and challenges the receiver to respond. And finally, and this is consequential, the quality of the art determines the quality of the responses. Thank you very much. Thank you.
the chair of the Poetry Committee. Last year's winner of our Poetry Award, Kim Hae-soon, that poetic inspiration was a form of literary ventriloquy in which a poet for the extremity of imaginary experience via the internal soliloquy. The finalists in the poetry category each find artful ways of ventriloquizing consciousness and experience, dazzling us with a somehow balanced extremity of style, imagination, and musicality that lifts their work into fresh realms of poetic expression. And the nominees are An Authentic Life by Jennifer Chang, Copper Canyon. An eloquent, meditative voice underlies the search by terms ironic, melancholy, and saturated with longing for the unattainable goal of the title. What I remember keeps happening, Chang writes, showing how the aspiration for authenticity may continually defeat us, even as the connections that we gain and lose day by day become the lovely, difficult measure of what lends meaning to our lives. Consider The Rooster by Oliver Baez-Bendorf, Nightboat. I already scanned the perimeter, Baez-Bendorf writes, and his gorgeous widescreen format expresses a faithful alertness to the blank expanses of the devastated environment and a panoramic embrace of transformation, as exemplified in the imaginary metamorphoses of classical myth and the personal consummation that arises from a hard-won bodily alignment with one's personal internal identity. Instructions for the Lovers by Don Lundy Martin, Nightboat. These risk-taking, intellectually complex poems instruct us in the permutations of eros and the movement of a body in its often devastating collisions with others, what Martin calls an absence if it were wrought inside the body. We both hold it. With a questing experimentation and fearless veracity, her poems inquire into the nature of human connection, whether in crisis, separation, collaboration, or love. Scattered Snows to the North by Carl Phillips, Farrar, Straus, and Giroux. Phillips employs his inimitable syntax, restless and involute, to open a ravishing visionary cycle that connects an erotic history from an era of thwarted and furtive sexuality to Paleolithic fragment and classical trope, as well as to the approaching endgame of a life, what he terms the way the present cuts into history, or how the future can look at first like the past, sweeping through. Wrong Norma by Ann Carson, New Directions. No one can tell a story without believing in the reality of others, Carson writes, and her magnificently witty and desolate pieces attest to a struggle to represent not only the reality of others as memory, cultural figure, or transmuted fiction torn from the news of the world, but a self that in its mortal decline and self-reflexive unknowability may be the most exquisitely difficult to encompass of all. And the winner of the Poetry Award is Ann Carson for Wrong Norma. Accepting on Ann Carson's behalf is Rosanna Bruno.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I'm not Ann Carson. I'm more sorry about that than you are. Ann would like me to thank a few people. One of them is Robert Curry, all the people at New Directions Publishers, and everyone in her life. And she also asked that I read a poem. I apologize because she would read so much better, as you know. And she considers this an artist's statement of sorts. Hokusai. Anger is a bitter lock, but you can turn it. Hokusai, aged 83, said, "Time to do my lions." Every morning until he died 219 days later, he made a lion. Wind came gushing from the northwest. Lions swayed and leapt from the crests of the pine trees onto the snowy road or crashed together over his hut, their white paws mauling stars on the way down. I continued to draw, hoping for a peaceful day, said Hokusai, as they thudded past. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is J. Howard Rozier, Chair of the Criticism Committee and Ombudsman for the NBCC. And tonight I am honored to announce the winner of this year's Criticism. The finalists in this category are Black Meme, A History of the Images That Make Us by Legacy Russell, published by Verso. A sobering assessment of how our mimetic age is built upon black labor and subjugation. The Blue Period, Black Writing in the Early Cold War by Jesse McCarthy, published by University of Chicago, a deaf critical survey that, in the spirit of artistic independence, permanently reconfigures our understanding of black literature. Disordered Attention, How We Look at Art and Performance Today, by Claire Bishop, published by Verso, a trenchant and delightful assertion that distraction is a factor of, rather than a hindrance to, the viewing of contemporary art. Intervals, by Marion Brooker, published by Fitzcarrell Editions, a mournful and fiercely intelligent accounting of the right to die and live in austerity Britain. And finally, There's Always This Year, On Basketball and Ascension, by Hanif Abdurraqib, published by Random House, an innovative and lively assertion of the personal as political, rendered by examining the allure of sports culture over the state of Ohio. And the winner of this year's Criticism Prize is There's Always This Year by Hanif Abdurraqib.
Well, I didn't prepare anything. I've been spending most of my time plotting on how to steal the floral arrangements at the end of the night, so I was not expecting this, to say the least. This book came to life through the close attention and care of many people, some of whom are in the room, so gratitude to Maya and Ben and Maria and Peter and Aaliyah and Sophie and all of the folks at Random House and Gernhardt who this book began as just like a couple lines about LeBron, and people believed I could make it. As I do when I'm not prepared, if you'll indulge me, I would like to take a few minutes to talk about my mother, who worked 2 jobs, and when she was not working 2 jobs, she would come home and write a novel on her typewriter, which was old and very loud, and I would sometimes be carried to the edge of the steps by the sound of her typewriter, and I would look in the door as she wrote with her back to me, and I'm sure she knew that I was there because parents know everything. When my mother passed away when I was 13, the novel became a stack of papers in a box that still lives in a closet. So it is not ever lost on me that whenever there is a book with my name on it that enters the world, it is not only my name, it is our name. It is the name she chose for me to have, and therefore it is a name that she gets to be a part of. It is me carrying on her dreaming, whether she knows it or not. And the poet Natasha Trethewey said this thing to me one time about the reality that for those of us who have lost a parent, in the case of Natasha and I both are mothers, she said this thing that was like, there is the mother we bury, and then there is the mother we refuse to put down. And this idea of the fact that we are not carried by our ancestors, we carry them, that charges me with a real responsibility. It charges me with a real care for my work. It charges me with something greater than, as beautiful as this all is greater than decoration, greater than anything other than the fact that I am carrying my mother alongside me, and therefore my work must honor that carrying. And first and foremost, I am a son of a mother who wrote. I am the son of a mother who sat at the altar of language and dreamed. And my labor, first and foremost, is to hopefully do well by that. And I would encourage, in closing, I would say I'd encourage everyone in the room, not just writers, but everyone, to find something worth carrying, a person, a place, anything that charges you with a real responsibility to do work at a level that is greater than yourself. Reach for something infinite in the name of that carrying. Thank you so much. Good night.
Good evening. My name is Rebecca Hussey, and I'm a member of the Autobiography Committee and the Vice President of Membership and Vice President of Technology at the NBCC. Tonight, I am delighted to announce the winner in the category of Autobiography. The finalists in Autobiography are The Last Fire Season, a personal and pyro-natural history by Manjula Martin, published by Pantheon, which tells a critically important story about climate change, land cultivation, in 2020. Manjula Martin writes beautifully about the science and history in an accessible and engaging manner while disability, showing the interconnectedness of our bodies and the environment. Little Seed by Wei Cho, published by Deep Vellum, combines a novelistic personal story of transgenerational trauma caused by China's Cultural Revolution and immigration, juxtaposed with the author's hobby of raising ferns. Wei Cho explores family as ecosystem in this deeply moving and formally daring work. The Minotaur of Kalilanza by Zito Madu, published by Belt, is a wholly original recounting of the author's residency in Venice during the COVID-19 pandemic. While weaving together stories of growing up the son of Nigerian immigrants in Detroit and his surreal experiences as a Black man moving in predominantly white spaces, Zito Madu reinvents the memoir in a new and thrilling form. Is a lyrical and examination of the reverberations of political violence and patriarchy over 3 generations. Featuring the author's own black and white photography, Mother Archive is both a riveting story and an artistic tour de force. Patriot by Alexei Navalny, translated from the Russian by Arch Tate and Stephen Diel, published by Knopf, is the personal story of one man standing up to authoritarianism and paying the ultimate price. A prison memoir, an eyewitness account of history, and a work of moral imperative and literary intelligence, Patriot is a masterpiece. And the winner is Patriot by Alexei Navalny, translated from the Russian by Arch Tate and And here to accept the award is Jordan Pavlin, Knopf publisher and editor-in-chief.
I'm very honored to accept this award on behalf of Alexei Navalny, one of the great moral heroes of our time. On January 17th, 2024, from his prison cell, in the manuscript that would become Patriot, Navalny wrote, Exactly 3 years ago, I came back to Russia following my poisoning. I was arrested at the airport, and for 3 years, I've been answering the same question. Why did you come back? The call for me explained. I traveled the length of this country, declaring from every stage, I promise that I won't let you down, I won't deceive you, and I won't abandon you. By coming back to Russia, I fulfilled my promise. It's very difficult in this dark moment in American history to conceive of a leader as committed to his country, his people, and his ideals as Navalny was, as committed to the galvanizing power of truth. Maybe this is going to sound naive, he wrote, and I know it's become the norm to laugh ironically and sneer at these words, but I call on absolutely everyone not to live by lies. How incredibly heartbreaking that a book written in the depths of Russia's prisons and penal colonies has become uncannily relevant to America in 2025. As we confront the rise of a fascist authoritarian government. Navalny knew with certainty that he would die in prison. He never lost his courage. He was not afraid, and he urged others not to be afraid. He never lost his sense of humor. The pages of this memoir brim with his love for life, his love for his astonishing lifelong partner, Yulia, for his family, his homeland, and his faith. Long after he gave up hope for his own future, he retained an indomitable optimism about the future of his country. The Putinist state is not sustainable, he wrote. Victory is inevitable. They may put me in isolation, they may imprison me, but someone else will rise up and take my place. Patriot is an urgently needed reminder of the power of resistance. The voice and spirit of Alexei Navalny is a bright light shining into the darkness, one that cannot be extinguished. And I thank the NBCC very much for conferring this honor on Navalny and helping to keep his vision alive.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Taylor. I'm delighted to chair Biography, and I just want to say, does anybody think there was any reason for the live stream to fail? Was there, right after we celebrated Navalny, I just wonder about that. So, wonderful set of finalists. So, the top, Candida Royale and the Sexual Revolution, A History from Below by Jane Kamensky, W.W. Norton. In the transformation of Candice Vidala into Candida Royale, Kamensky spotlighted, as she put it, a profoundly, uniquely 20th century American life. A life like no other, and also like every other. In her rich social and cultural history, Kamensky channels Royale through her diaries, placing her at the center of the fierce conflict over female sexual empowerment. As Kamensky impressively documents and it was rejected sort of the militant who sort of opposed pornography and had a different point of view. She said, in resistance, she founded a feminist, sex-positive production company that celebrated female sexual pleasure. So, go her. I mean, really. Anyway, how do you say no? So, Candy Darling, still in the sex theme, or gender theme. Candy Darling, icon superstar by Cynthia Carr from Farrar Straus Giroux. The word trans implies a journey, Carr writes in her humane and sensitive biography of the actress born in conservative Massapequa Park in Long Island, born as James Slattery, who then transformed herself into Candy Darling. Drawing on extensive interviews and Darling's diaries, Carr untangles a radical life and a life lived on the margins, on the edge. She brings Candy, a transgender icon in the Warhol orbit, back into the spotlight, evoking her spirit in this meticulously researched history. Family romance. John Singer Sargent and the Wertheimers by Jean Strauss, Farrar Straus and Giroux. Jean Strauss's original and kaleidoscopic biography has John Singer Sargent and his patrons, the Wertheimers, embedded into the shifting power relationships of the late 19th and 20th century, when political and economic turmoil ended an era defined by aristocratic wealth and privilege, which we hope to end now. Anyway, Strauss really weaves together the lives of the Wertheimers, the Wertheimer family. They all come alive in this book. They were his Jewish patrons into her sensitive reconstruction of Sargent's story. And Strauss demonstrates how Sargent captured both the fading grandeur of the past and the fresh energy of the world in flux when the transatlantic landscape was transformed forever. Night Flyer, Harriet Tubman and the Faith Dreams of a Free People by Time Miles, Penguin Press. With superpowers of her own, Time Miles leads us to a new understanding of Harriet Tubman beyond her legendary work on behalf of the Underground Railroad. With a firm focus on spirituality and ecology, Miles channels Tubman's belief in dreams, visions, and faith in the natural and in the supernatural, learning to speak the language of trees and in resizing a cultural icon into human scale. Miles illuminates the rich interior life of a brave woman. The World She Edited, Catherine S. White at the New Yorker, by Amy Rading, from Mariner. For over 3 decades, Catherine White was the only woman on the staff of The New Yorker. Until now, she's been a footnote in stories about Mr. Ross and or Mr. Sean. But by focusing on White, Reading reframes the magazine's origin story. She shows how this woman shaped the magazine's distinctive tone, set it's on its course. It was witty, but not too witty, sophisticated, but not too sophisticated. She evokes the clarity of White's vision and her resistance to convention. And she helps us understand what E.B. White really meant when he wrote, "It's not often that one comes along who is a true friend and a good writer." And the winner is Cynthia Carr. For Candy Darling.
Wow. Thank you, NBCC. This is rather unexpected. I want to thank my editor, Jenna Johnson, everyone at FSG, my agent, Joy Harris, and my first reader, Marcel Clements. And I wish Jeremiah Newton was here, who's still alive. He's the friend of Candy's who persuaded me to write this book over 10 years ago. It took a while. And the reason I wanted to write it was that after I talked to him for the first time, he called me and asked me to do it. I went and saw him, and he had some of Candy's things. And talking to him, I realized the huge difference between this glamorous image that everyone knew during that time and the reality of her life, living as a transgender person in the 60s and early 70s. She died in 1974. During the time that I worked on this, I saw increasing demonization of the trans community. I dedicated this book to the trans community with hope that maybe it could get better. Of course, it's gotten much worse. We now have a president who has told us that trans people do not exist and that they have no rights, and which is horrifying and enraging. And all I can say is that I plan to be an ally to that community, and I hope the rest of you will be too. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jo Livingston. I'm the Nonfiction chair. I also just managed to knock my right contact lens out, and I hand wrote these notes, so just believe, and we'll get there. It's really an honor to serve as the chair for Nonfiction, and I'm horrified that there can only be one winner. Such a fabulous year of writers. So our nominees are The Achilles Trap, Saddam Hussein, the CIA, and the Origins of America's Invasion of Iraq by Steve Cole, by Penguin Press. The Achilles Trap disentangles facts from fiction in the history of the many misunderstandings between the United States government and that of Saddam Hussein, with the results with which we're all familiar. We're Alone by Edward Danticat, Grey Wolf, a beautiful essay collection, weaving political analysis with personal and collective reflections on Haiti, past, present, and future. The Freaks came out to write the definitive history of the Village Voice, the radical paper that changed American culture, Public Affairs, by Tricia Romano. A huge achievement in oral history, and about that big, piecing together the recollections of hundreds of voice editors and contributors, an amazing contribution to our culture. Challenger, a true story of heroism and disaster on the edge of space, from Avid Reader by Adam Higginbotham. A forensic accounting, or arguably expose, of the incompetence and disaster fostered when corporate bosses take over government agencies. And finally, Gretchen Sisson's Relinquished, The Politics of Adoption and the Privilege of American Motherhood, from St. Martin's Press. A careful and delicate examination of the experiences of people over the long term whose children have been adopted by other families. And the winner is Challenger by Adam Higginbotham.
Hi. Sorry, I've got to put my glasses on here. Thank you. This is an enormous honor. I'm grateful to the NBCC for recognizing my work alongside that of my fellow finalists and including me among the amazing literary talent gathered here this evening. I'd like to thank everyone at Simon & Schuster and Avid Reader Press. So that's John Karp, Ben Lunan, my editor, Jofi Ferrari Adler, Caroline Kelly, Jonathan Evans, Dave Cass, Eva Kerens, Meredith Villarello, Nick Rooney. And at Viking in London, Daniel Crew, Greg Close, and Annie Lucas. My agents, Edward Orloff, Sophie Lambert, and Christina Moore. But I'd also like to thank the many, many people who spoke to me over the years of reporting this book, particularly the family and friends of the Challenger crew who trusted me to tell their story, and especially Marcia Jarvis, Cheryl McNair, June Scobie-Rogers, Jane Smith-Walcott, and Alison Balch. Most of all, I want to thank Vanessa Mobley, who is there, and our daughter Isla, without whose love and support this book would never have been possible. It's now nearly 40 years since the events at the heart of this story took place. It was a time when scientific facts would not yet be dismissed as a matter of belief. It was a time when not one of the 7 crew of Challenger's final mission, including 2 women, the second black astronaut, and the first Asian American to orbit the Earth, would be described as DEI hires. Instead, they were nationally recognized as the best, the most gifted, and the most inspiring individuals the country had to offer. It was a certainly far from perfect era, but it was at least a time when values, dignity, and facts mattered, when the truth mattered. I hope that one day soon we'll be able to live in times like those again. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is David Varno, and I'm the chair of the Fiction Committee. Last but not least for tonight. It's been an incredible honor to serve in this role during such a fantastic year for fiction. And I am delighted to announce the winner. The finalists in this category are Beautyland by Marie-Helene Bertino, published by Farrar, Straus & Giroux. A spellbinding and singular portrait of a Gen X woman born as an alien from a distant planet who, feeling like a complete outsider that she is, attempts to make sense of life on Earth by becoming a writer. Godwin by Joseph O'Neill, Pantheon. An ingenious and addictive riff on Conrad's Heart of Darkness. It tells the story of an American grant writer's unexpected partnership with a French soccer scout in the search for an elusive prospect in West Africa. James by Percival Everett, published by Doubleday. A completely original manifestation of Mark Twain's classic adventure, remade as Jim's story. It's packed with relentless intelligence, humor, and heart, not to mention surprising twists and vengeance-driven climax. My Friends by Hisham Matar, Random House. A gripping and beautiful story of exile, literary obsession, and political intrigue. Chronicles a Libyan man's 3 decades in London and the friendships he makes there while involuntarily estranged from his family and homeland. Us Fools by Nora Lang, $2 Radio. An arresting and ambitious tale of 2 sisters living through the 1980s farm crisis, which casts the girls' precarity and neglect on a large canvas, skewering the Reagan administration's cynical policies in ways that are historically precise and spectacularly timely. And the winner is My Friends by Hisham Matar.
Now, I know people have said this before, but I really didn't expect it. In fact, jokingly earlier, my dear editor and publisher, Andy Ward, said to me, "Did you prepare any words?" And I said, "No, but how about hello, thank you, goodbye?" And little book. No, I don't begrudge it you. You're off to the city without me. On your way then, but penny planed as befits an exile's sad offering and my present state. For you, there will be no slipcase in vermilion, no cedar oiled backing appear for inspection, briskly unkempt. And if in the throng you should come upon one who should chance to ask about me, don't say he's well. Say he lives by the grace of the gods, for the rest remain silent. These aren't my words. These are words by Ovid, and those who know me well know I'm particularly attached to his poem. But it comes to mind today because my book is a book that is returning to at least one of my cities, or I should say 2 of my cities. This book is told on a walk across London by somebody who is thinking of his original city, Benghazi. But I also find myself today in my city, in another city that is my city. I was born here in New York, actually not far from this place. So thank you for making me feel at home, and thank you to the National Book Critics. And that word circle is actually quite significant to me today because I feel I'm very much in a circle with all the writers, those nominated with me, and with whom I share this prize. Books are not in a race. But also I'm in another sort of circle, a circle of echoes, I feel, in this moment. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks.
I know there's probably quite a few people in this room who could use something to eat and a drink, so I will keep it very short. Thank you so much to everyone who attended here tonight. Thank you to all of our finalists and winners. It's been our privilege to host these two events over the past few nights. If you bought a ticket to the reception, you will get a gold wristband. You need to check in at the table, and then once you do that, we're going to head out and over to Star Foundation Hall a few blocks away, and then you can just show your wristband at the door and just go right in. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a safe night.